Hello everyone, this is me, Debosmita Sarkar. After a very long time, I came back with a new video, Cybercrime. So, let's begin. Cybercrime is a crime that involves a computer and a network. The computer may have been used in the commission of a crime, or it may be the target. Cybercrime may harm someone's security and financial health. There are many privacy concerns surrounding cybercrime when confidential information is intercepted or disclosed, lawfully or otherwise. Internationally, both governmental and non-state actors engage in cybercrimes including espionage, financial theft and other cross-border crimes. Cybercrimes crossing international borders and involving the actions of at least one nation state are sometimes referred to as cyber warfare. Warren Buffett describes cybercrime as the number one problem with mankind and poses real risk to humanity. Classifications. With traditional crime reducing, global communities continue to witness a sporadic growth in cybercrime. Computer crime encompasses a broad range of activities from financial crimes to scams through cyber sex trafficking and ad frauds. First is financial fraud crimes, second is cyber terrorism, third is cyber extortion, fourth is cyber sex trafficking, fifth is cyber warfare, sixth is computer as a target, seven is computer as a tool, eight is obscene or offensive content, nine is ad fraud, and 10 is online harassment. First is financial fraud crimes. Computer fraud is any dishonest misrepresentation of fact intended to let another do or refrain from doing something that causes loss. In this context, the fraud will result in obtaining a benefit by altering in an unauthorized way. This requires little technical expertise and is a common form of theft by employees altering the data before entry or entering false data or by entering unauthorized instructions or using unauthorized processes. Second is altering, destroying, suppressing, or stealing outputs, usually to connect, conceal unauthorized transactions. This is difficult to detect. Third is altering or deleting stored data. Other forms of fraud may be facilitated using computer system, including bank fraud, carding, identity theft, extortion, and theft of classified information. These types of crime often result in the loss of private information or monetary information. Cyber extortion. Cyber extortion occurs when a website, email server, or computer system is subjected to or threatened with repeated denial of service or other attacks by malicious hackers. These hackers demand money in return for promising to stop the attacks and to offer protection. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, cybercrime extortionists are increasingly attacking corporate websites and networks, crippling the ability to operate and demanding payments to restore their service. More than 20 cases are reported each month to the FBI, and many go unreported in order to keep the victim's name out of public domain. Perpetrators typically use a distributed denial of service attack. However, other cyber extortion techniques exist such as doxing extortion and bug poaching. An example of cyber extortion was the attack on Sony Pictures in 2014. Cyber sex trafficking. Cyber sex trafficking is the transportation of victims and then the live streaming of coerced sexual acts and or rape on a webcam. Victims are abducted, threatened, or deceived and transferred to cyber sex dens. The dens can be any location where the cyber sex traffickers have a computer, tablet, or phone with an internet connection. Perpetrators use social media networks, video conferences, dating pages, online chat rooms, apps, dark websites, and other platforms. They use online payment systems and cryptocurrencies to hide their identities. Millions of reports of its occurrence are sent to is sent to authorized authorities annually. New legislation and police procedures are needed to combat this type of cybercrime. Example of cyber sex trafficking is the 2018 to 2020 Net Room case in South Korea. Cyber warfare. The used US Department of Defense notes that cyberspace has emerged as a national level concern through several recent events of geostrategic significance. Among those are included the attack on Estonia's infrastructure in 2007, allegedly by Russian hackers. In August 2008, Russian again allegedly conducted cyber attacks, in this time in a coordinated and synchronized kinetic and non-kinetic campaign against the country of Georgia. Fearing that such attacks may become the norm in future warfare among nation states, the concept of cyberspace operation impacts and will be adopted by war-fighting military commanders in the future. Computer as a target. These crimes are committed by a selected group of criminals. Unlike crimes using the computer as a tool, these crimes require a technical knowledge of the perpetrators. As such, as technology evolves, so too does the nature of the crime. These crimes are relatively new, having been in existence for only as long as computers have, which explains how unprepared society and the world in general is towards combating these crimes. There are numerous crimes of this nature committed daily on the internet. It is seldom committed by loners. Instead, it involves large syndicate groups. Crimes that primarily target computer network include computer viruses, denial of service attacks, malware, malicious code. Computer is a tool. When the individual is the main target of some cybercrime, the computer can be considered as a tool rather than the target. These crimes generally involve less technical expertise. Human weaknesses are generally exploited. The damage dealt is largely psychological and intangible, making legal action against the variants more difficult. These are the crimes which have existed for centuries in the offline world. Scams, theft, and the likes have existed even before the development in high-tech equipment. The same criminal has simply been given a tool which increases their potential pool of victims and make them all the harder to trace and apprehend. Crimes that use computer networks or devices to advance other ends include fraud and identity theft. Although this increasingly uses malware, hacking, or phishing, making it an example of both computer as a target and computer as a tool crime. Information warfare, phishing scams, or spam. Propagation of illegal obscene or offensive content including harassment and threat. The unsolicited sending of bulk email for commercial purposes. Spam is unlawful in some jurisdictions. Phishing is mostly propagated via email. Phishing emails may contain links to other websites that are affected by malware, or they may contain links to fake online banking or other website used to steal private account information. Obscene or offensive content. The content of websites and other electronic communities may be distasteful, obscene, or offensive for a variety of reasons. In some instances, its communications may be illegal. The extent to which communications are unlawful varies greatly between countries and even within nations. It is a sensitive area in which the courts can become involved in arbitrating between groups with strong belief. One area of internet pornography that has been the target of the strongest efforts at curtailment of is child pornography, which is illegal in most jurisdictions in the world. Debratri Halder and K. Joyshankar further define cybercrime from the perspective of gender and define cybercrime against women as crimes targeted against women with a motive to intentionally harm the victim psychologically and physically using modern telecommunication networks such as internet and mobile net phones. Ad fraud. Ad frauds are particularly popular among cyber criminals, as such frauds are less likely to be prosecuted and a particularly lucrative cybercrime. Jean-Luc Richet, professor at the Sorbonne Business School, classified the large variety of ad fraud observed in cybercriminal communities in three categories: identity fraud, attribution fraud, and ad fraud services. Identity fraud aims to impersonate real users and inflate audience numbers. Several ad fraud techniques relate to this category and include traffic from bots coming from a hosting company or a data center, or from compromised devices. Cookie stuffing, falsifying user characteristics such as location and browser type; fake social traffic, misleading users on social network into visiting an advertised website; and the creation of fake social signals to make a bot look more legitimate, for instance by opening a Twitter or Facebook account. Online harassment. Whereas content may be offensive in a non specific way, harassment directs obscenities and derogatory comments at specific individuals, focusing, for example, on gender, race, religion, nationality, sexual orientation. There are instances where committing a crime using a computer can lead to an enhanced sentence. For example, in the case of United States, Neil Scott Kramer, the defendant, was given an enhanced sentence according to the U.S. Sentencing Guidelines Manual for his use of a cell phone to persuade, induce, entice, coerce, or facilitate the travel of the minor to engage in prohibited sexual conduct. Kramer appealed the sentence on the grounds that there was insufficient evidence to convict him under this statute because his charge included persuading through a computer device, and his cellular phone technically is not a computer. The United States alone, Missouri and over 40 other states have passed laws and regulations that regard extreme online harassment as a criminal act. Several countries outside of the United States have also created laws to combat online harassment. In China, a country that supports over 20% of the world's internet users, the Legislative Office of the State Council passed a strict law against bullying of young people through a bill in response to the Human Flesh search engine. Although freedom of speech is protected by law in most democratic societies, it does not include all types of speech. In fact, spoken or written truth, threat, speech, or text is criminalized because of intent to harm or intimidate. That also applies for online or any type of network related threats in written text or speech. Cyberbullying has increased drastically with the growing popularity of online social networking. As of January 2020, 40% of adult internet users in the United States have personally experienced online harassment. Children who experience online harassment deal with negative and sometimes life-threatening side effects. In 2021, reports displayed 41% of children developing social anxiety, 37% of children developing depression, and 26% of children having suicidal thoughts. Drug trafficking. Darknet markets are used to buy and sell recreational drugs online. Some drugs traffickers use encrypted messaging tools to communicate with drug mules. The drug website Silk Road was a major online marketplace for drugs before it was shut down by law enforcement. After Silk Road 2.0 went down, Silk Road 3 reloaded in March. However, it was just an older marketplace named Diabolis Market that used the name for more exposure from the brand's previous success. Darknet markets have had an uprise in traffic in recent years for many reasons. One of the biggest contributors being the anonymity and safety that goes along when using the markets. One of the biggest issues that users face who use marketplaces as the vendors or market itself exit scamming. This is when usually a vendor with a high rating will act as if they were still selling on the market and have users send the money. The vendor will then close off its account after receiving money from multiple buyers and never send what they purchased. The vendors all being involved in illegal activities have a low chance of not exit scamming when they no longer want to be a vendor. One of the highest profile banking computer crime occurred during a course of 3 years beginning in 1970. The chief teller at the Park Avenue branch of New York's Union Time Saving Bank embezzled over $1.5 million from hundreds of accounts. A hacking group called MOD, Master of Deception, allegedly stole passwords and technical data from Pacific Bell, 9X, and other telephone companies, as well as several big credit agencies and two major universities. The damage caused was extensive. One company, Southwestern Bell, suffered losses of $37,000 alone. In 1983, a 19-year-old UCLA student used his PC to break into a Defense Department international communication system between 1995 and 1998. The New Crop satellite pay-to-view encrypted Sky TV service was hacked several times during an ongoing technological arms race between a pan-European hacking group and News Corp. The original motivation of the hacker was to watch Star Trek Returns in Germany, which was something that News Corp did not have the copyright to allow. On 2nd March 2010, Spanish investigators arrested 3 men who were suspected of infecting of over 30 million computers around the world. The botnet of infected computers include PCs inside more than half of the Fortune 1,000 companies and more than 40 major banks, according to investigators. In May 2017, 70 countries launched a ransomware cybercrime called WannaCry. 23rd April 2013 saw the Associated Press Twitter's account hacked. The hacker posted at works to tweet about fictitious attacks in the White House, and they claimed left President Obama injured. This hoax tweet resulted in a brief plunge of 130 points from the Dow Jones Industrial Average, removal of $136 billion from the S&P 500 index, and a temporary suspension of AP's Twitter account. The Dow Jones later restored his session gains. Combating computer crime. It is difficult to find and combat cybercrime perpetrators due to the use of the internet support of cross-border attacks. Not only does the internet allow people to be targeted from various locations, but the scale of the harm done be magnified. Cyber criminals can target more than one person at a time. The availability of virtual spaces to public and private sectors had allowed cybercrime to become an everyday occurrence. 2018, the Internet Cybercrime Complaint Centers received 351,937 complaints of cybercrime, which led to a $2.7 billion loss. Investigation. A computer can be a source of evidence. See digital forensics. Even where a computer is not directly used for criminal purposes, may contain records of value to criminal investigators in the form of a log file. In most countries, internet service providers are required by law to keep the log files for a predetermined amount of time. For example, a European-wide data retention directive states that all email traffic should be retained for a minimum of 12 months. There are many ways for a cybercrime to take place. Investigation tend to start with an IP address trace. However, this is not necessarily a factual basis upon which detectives can solve a case. Different types of high-tech crime may also include elements of low-tech crime, and vice versa, making cybercrime investigators an indispensable part of modern law enforcement. Methods of cybercrime detective work are dynamic and constantly improving, whether in closed police units or in international cooperation frameworks. In the United States, the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security are government agencies that combat cybercrime. The FBI has trained agents and analyzed in cybercrime placed in the field offices and headquarters. Under the DHS, the Secret Service has a cyber intelligence section that works to target financial cybercrimes. They use the intelligence to protect against international cybercrime. Due to common use of encryption and other techniques to hide the identity and location by cybercriminals, it can be difficult to trace a perpetrator after the crime is committed, so prevention measures are crucial. Prevention. The Department of Homeland Security also constitutes the Continuous Diagnostic and Mitigation Program, the CDM program, monitors and secures government network by tracking and prioritizing network risk and informing system personnel so that they can take action in an attempt to catch intrusion before the damage is done. The DHS created the enhanced cybersecurity services to protect public and private sectors in the United States. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency approves private partners that provide intrusion and detection and prevention services to the ECS. An example of one of these services offered is DNS sinkholing. Legislation. Due to easily exploitable laws, cyber criminals use developing countries in order to evade detection and prosecution from law enforcement. In developing countries such as Philippines, law against cybercrime are weak or sometimes non-existent. These weak laws allow cyber criminals to strike from international borders and remain undetected. Even when unidentified, these criminals avoid being punished or extradited to a country such as the United States that has developed laws that allow for prosecution. While this proves difficult in some cases, agencies such as the FBI have used deception and subterfuge to catch criminals. For example, two Russian hackers had been invading the FBI for some time. The FBI set up a fake computing company based in Seattle, Washington. They proceeded to lure the two Russian men into the United States by offering them work with this company. Upon completion of the interview, these suspects were arrested outside of the building. The clever tricks like this are sometimes a necessary part of catching cyber criminals when weak legislation makes it impossible otherwise. Then, President Barack Obama released an executive order in April 2015 to combat cybercrime. Penalties. Penalties for computer-related crimes in New York State can range from a fine and a short period of jail time for a Class A misdemeanor such as unauthorized use of computer by up to computer tampering in the first degree, which is a Class C felony and can carry 3 to 15 years in prison. However, some hackers have been hired as information security experts by private companies due to their inside knowledge of computer crime, a phenomenon that theoretically could create perverse incentives. A possible counter to this is for courts to ban convicted hackers from using the internet or computers even after they have been released from prison. Though as computers and the internet become more and more essential to everyday life, this type of punishment may be viewed as more harsh and draconian. However, more nuanced approaches may have been developed that manage cyber offenders' behaviors without resorting to a total computer internet bans. Awareness. As technology advances, more people rely on the internet to store sensitive information such as banking or credit card information. Criminals increasingly attempt to steal that information. Cybercrime is becoming more of a threat to people across the world, raising awareness about how information is being protected and the tactics of criminals used to steal their community information continues to grow in importance. According to FBI's International Internet Crime Complaint Center in 2014, there were 269,422 complaints filed. With all the claims combined, there was a reported total loss of 800 million 492,073 dollar, but cybercrime does yet seem to be on the average person's radar. Intelligence. As cybercrime has proliferated, a professional ecosystem has evolved to support individuals and groups seeking to profit from cybercriminal activities. The ecosystem has quite specialized, including malware developers, bonnet operators, professional cybercrime groups, groups specializing in the sale of stolen content, and so forth. A few of the leading cybersecurity companies have the skills, resources, and visibility to follow the activities of these individuals and groups. A wide variety of information is available from these sources, which can be used for defensive purposes, including technical indicators such as hashes of infected files or malicious IPs or URLs, as well as strategic information profiling, the goals, techniques, and campaigns of the prolified groups. Diffusion of cybercrime. The broad diffusion of cybercriminal activities is an issue in the computer crimes detection and prosecution. Hacking has become less complex as hacking communities have greatly diffused their knowledge to the internet. Blogs and communities have hugely contributed to the information sharing. Beginners could benefit from older hackers' knowledge and advice. Furthermore, hacking is cheaper than ever before the cloud computing era. In order to spam or scam, one needed a dedicated server, skills in server management, network configuration and maintenance, knowledge of internet service provider standards, etc. By comparison, an email software as a service is a scalable, inexpensive bulk and transaction email sending service for marketing purposes and could be easily set up for spam. So with this we come to the end. Thank you. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to comment in the comment section below. Bye bye. Stay home and stay safe.